from inside a closed nation.
I long for the day when I perform in front of the general, so I'm willing to put up with the pain.
Where the war has never ended.
As we're taught in school, we have to endlessly hate the U.S. and fight them to the end.
And we are the enemy.
The Americans are making life bad in our country.
Next on Wide Angle. Major funding for Wide Angle has been provided by the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation, the Ford Foundation, the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, and the Jacob Burns Foundation. Additional funding has been provided by Carnegie Corporation of New York and the Miriam and Ira D. Wallach Foundation. Wide Angle has also been made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to Wide Angle. I'm Jamie Rubin. Tonight we offer a rare look inside North Korea, one of the three countries President Bush has called the axis of evil. Last month, negotiations on North Korea's nuclear ambitions ended in acrimony. And now North Korea is actually threatening to test a nuclear weapon. Tonight we'll follow the daily lives and hear from some of the families who live in the world's last totalitarian communist state. And after the film, we'll talk about the future of U.S.-North Korean relations.
North Korea is not Iraq, and I think it would be a grave mistake to assume that it is.
Stay with us.
February 16th, 2003. It is 18 degrees Fahrenheit in North Korea's capital city, Pyongyang. This is Park Hyun-sun. She is a 13-year-old schoolgirl with a passion for gymnastics.
Hello. This is my grandfather. This is my grandmother. This is my mother.
The previous day, across the globe, millions of people marched for peace as war looms in Iraq. North Koreans know that Iraq is another member of what George Bush called the axis of evil. But here, on February 16th, it is a day of celebration.
Today is the most joyous of all holidays because it's the day our general, whom the whole world admires, was born. So the citizens of Pyongyang will go dancing here tonight.
The general is North Korea's ruler, Kim Jong-il, formerly known as the Dear Leader.
Won't you join in?
In 2001, after 4 years of negotiations with the North Korean authorities, a British film crew was allowed to enter North Korea to track down the soccer players who in 1966 in England created the greatest shock in the history of soccer's World Cup. Nothing had been heard from the players since 1966, and even in North Korea they were famous only by name. The resulting film, The Game of Their Lives, has been broadcast 7 times in North Korea and has acquired legendary status there. In 2003, with unparalleled cooperation from the North Korean authorities, the same filmmakers were granted unprecedented access to document the everyday lives of 2 selected families in Pyongyang, North Korea's capital. The filmmakers spent much of 2003 living and filming inside what has been termed the secret state. Throughout the filming, there were guides and interpreters present, but they didn't interfere or seek to censor the material. The crew was free to interview the families about any topic. North North Korea is arguably the least visited, least known, and least understood country in the world. In February 2003, we are 5 months away from the 50th anniversary of the end of the Korean War, a war that is known in the West as the Forgotten War, in North Korea as the victorious Fatherland Liberation War. Hyun-sun's grandfather was her age during the war and experienced the devastation firsthand. This is the family's first ever face-to-face contact with Westerners. Hyun-sun is part of an elite group of schoolgirls who specialize in mass gymnastic performances. The mass games celebrate North Korea's achievements and milestones, such as the leaders' birthdays or important anniversaries. Up to 80,000 gymnasts perform in the floor display. 20,000 school children hold up books of placards creating huge murals. The performance embodies the ideology of the state, the subordination of individual thoughts and actions to the needs of the collective. Gymnasts practice all year round for a minimum of 2 hours a day. It is estimated that around 100 million hours are spent preparing a mass games.
The first time I was in mass gymnastics was in 2001 for the 55th anniversary of the founding of the party. It was the first time I experienced the feeling of participating in an event in the presence of the general. The second event I performed in was for the general's 60th birthday in 2002. The third time was the Arirang Festival. It was the biggest mass gymnastics event I participated in and the biggest one we've ever done. I've never been happier than those 3 times performing in the presence of the general. Mass gymnastics are really hard. It was so tough at the beginning that after my mother prepared lunch and told me to do my best at the training, I'd go to the children's palace and play hooky all day and tell my mother in the evening that I'd been to gym practice. Later on, my mother and teacher found out about it and I got a scolding. Since then, I've been going regularly. We work on the gymnastics formation once in a while. Basically, we do the physical training and wait until the summer for formation practice. Even on days when the temperature dropped to 4 below zero, we came out to the youth athletic school and did basic exercise and physical training. I used to fall down during training, but I never had a major injury. I used to get bruises on my knees and arms, but they're all gone now.
Although the birthday of Kim Jong-il is a time for relaxation and joy in North Korea, its citizens are acutely aware of escalating tensions with the U.S. In January, there had been daily preparation for the possibility of an American attack.
Sometimes I'd be at home having fun with my mother and grandmother, and then there'd be a blackout exercise or an air raid alarm. The mothers and grandmothers would come down to the shelter and say that it's all because of the Americans. Because we're always doing things like air raids and draping blackout curtains. I think, just as we're taught at school, that we have to hate the Americans endlessly and fight them until the end.
North Korea's population of 22 million is ruled by the Workers' Party of Korea. Membership in the party is open to all of society, the party tells us that there are no special privileges for members, but they must be ready to devote their lives to the party and the leader. Kim Il-sung, known as the Great Leader, led the country from its foundation in 1948 until his death in 1994. North Korea's current leader is his son, Kim Jong-il, known as the General since taking charge of the army in 1991. All adult North Koreans wear lapel badges, given to them by their work units depicting either Kim Il-sung or Kim Jong-il. Socially, North Korea is divided into three classes: the workers, represented by the hammer, the peasants, represented by the sickle, and the intellectuals, represented by the calligraphy brush. All three classes are officially defined as equals in society.
When my family gets together, my grandfather and father don't say much because they're so focused on their work. Sometimes they live at their work site, so they don't come back home that often.
In 1950, when the Korean War broke out, Hyun-sun's grandfather was just 10 years old, living in a village about 40 miles outside Pyongyang. Although the Korean War is a distant memory in the West, the people of communist North Korea have not been allowed to forget its brutality. An estimated 4 million people, many of them civilians, were killed in the 3 years of fighting, and Korea remains divided to this day.
When I was young, I didn't know if the U.S. imperialists were bad or good. But during our war in the 1950s, I saw the brutal bombing of our country and the atrocities suffered by our people.
The North Koreans regard the 3-year war as U.S.-led, though it was fought under the flag of the United Nations and triggered by North Korea's invasion of the South. The near flattening of the North by American bombers left a deep mark on the North Korean psyche. Both the war and subsequent U.S. Cold War policy towards North Korea have resulted in a profound antagonism to America that has lasted to this day.
I saw things being done that no decent human being could do. I became more enraged about U.S. imperialism, and I came to feel that we have to rid this land of U.S. imperialism completely. At the time of the war, there was nothing left, just piles of ashes. After that, we really tightened our belt and started rebuilding. This was needed in order to completely rebuild our capital. If you build someone a house, they can live their life there. As people live there, they feel their life is more worthwhile and they can work better. They can also put more energy into production. So we have to keep on building and not fall behind other countries. I've been mobilized to do construction work for 35 years. Building is hard work, but after the construction's finished, we're proud and we feel it was all worthwhile. Our slogan is, one for all for one. And we really stand together as a group. If one of us does something, we all do it. Anything our group organizes, we all support unconditionally. With this kind of mentality, a work unit becomes one in body and spirit and tries to solve all its problems.
The mentality of teamwork and collective effort runs throughout North Korean society, whether in construction or in mass games. Organization, discipline, and collectivism are key elements of mass games, reflecting the ideology of the party.
So, because all our people stood up together and rebuilt our city, it became the first-class city we have today.
The capital, Pyongyang, is a showcase for the nation. Throughout North Korea, residency is allocated by the party. Pyongyang has 2 million residents, and it is considered a privilege to live here. Hyun-sun lives in the top floor of this apartment building in the central district of Pyongyang. She is an only child and lives with her parents and grandparents. She has her own room, as do her parents. Her grandparents sleep on the living room floor. Hers is a worker's family. Her father is a driver for a government ministry, and her grandfather is in construction. Neither her mother nor grandmother works outside the home. All adults, except the mother, are members of the party. Throughout Hyun-sun's apartment are portraits of the great leader Kim Il-sung and the general Kim Jong-il. In Pyongyang, state radio is piped into every apartment's kitchen. Listeners can turn the volume down, but not off. TV is state-run, with one channel broadcasting for 5 hours a day during the week. An extra 2 channels broadcast on the weekends. In Hyun-sun's bedroom is an additional television, a gift from the state to the children who participated in the masked games extravaganza of 2002. In March, after the first film shoot with Hyun-sun's family, the North Korean authorities tried to change the family they had originally chosen to be filmed, telling us illness was the reason. They suggested another family, whose youngest daughter was also a mass games gymnast. The producers refused to switch families, but agreed to film the second family, which was from a different social class, the intellectuals.
Sung-yeon! Sung-yeon! Get up and go to school. It's time. Hurry up. Hey, Sung-yeon. It's time for school. Be quick and get to school. You're late.
Kim Sung-yeon is 11 years old. Her father, a former soldier and a member of the Workers' Party, is a physics lecturer at Kim Il-sung University. Her mother is a housewife. She has 2 older sisters. One is 15 and a high school student. The eldest is 18, a high school graduate who will shortly be joining the army. The family lives on the 18th floor in an apartment also in the central district of Pyongyang. Sung-yeon's sisters each have their own rooms, and her parents sleep on the living room floor. Sung-yeon sleeps in a different sister's room each night.
Hey, Yeon-sun. You know the front door of our apartment building? Meet me there at 8. Now. Now. Come down quickly.
Okay, we only have 10 minutes.
Did you put my gym uniform in there?
Yes, I put it in.
Although there is a 2-year age difference, Song-yeon and Hyun-sun are close friends.
I'm going. Did you put in a spoon for my lunch?
Yes. The first thing that comes to mind each time Sung-young starts preparing for a new mass gymnastics event is that she'll be serving the general once again. When the beloved general sees that performance, how happy he'll be. These are the first things we feel. So we think of it as an honor that Sung-young is taking part in the mass gymnastics. And we'll do everything we can for the sake of that day when our father, the general, is watching. All of us, her older sisters, father, and me. For the sake of that day, we're always working to make sure she's not tired or hungry, and trying to feed her better.
Before the children participated in mass gymnastics, all they did after coming home from school was whine. Younger children especially. They just study. Studying is good, but they don't know anything about life. When they go to mass gymnastics, they develop physically and do better mentally.
Spring has arrived, and Pyongyang is awash with seasonal cherry blossoms. Both girls have 5 hours of school ahead of them, and after a 2-hour lunch break, 2 hours of mass gymnastic practice. They will not return home before 7 in the evening.
When I come home from school, I have no one to play with and I get bored. Once I went to Sung-yeon's place. Both of her older sisters and Sung-yeon were there. So we played the accordion, the guitar, and the violin, and all played together. Afterwards I went home and there was no one there. It was really quiet. I hate being alone at our house. I wish I had lots of brothers and sisters.
April is a sacred month in North Korea. While the Western world concentrates on 24-hour coverage of the war in Iraq, preparations are beginning here for another holiday. The occasion will be Kim Il-sung's birthday. So revered is North Korea's former ruler that he remains head of state despite his death in 1994. Thousands will descend on Pyongyang to visit his birthplace. North Korea operates under a food rationing system. Park Hyun-sun's mother says she has allocated 1 chicken and 5 eggs per month for each family member. It's impossible to know if these rations are typical. Rations are increased for national holidays. In the years following Kim Il-sung's death, there was a great degree of hardship in North Korea. The collapse of communism in Eastern Europe and the Soviet Union and the subsequent loss of trading partners and subsidies led to severe food shortages. A combination of natural disasters, failed harvests, and a lack of raw materials compounded the misery. Most Western analysts predicted an implosion of the country and the system. No one will ever know the true number of deaths from starvation during this time. Even in Pyongyang, there was no escape from the misery. To the North Koreans, this period has become known as the Arduous March. No North Korean citizen has ever spoken to a foreigner on the record about the Arduous March.
The Arduous March. When we talk about the time of hardship, the first thing we think of is the Arduous March. To let you know how frustrated we felt back then, I only need to tell you about our oldest daughter's birthday at the time. On Sungmi's birthday, we had nothing but corn. So I ground up the whole ear of corn and made porridge with it. We celebrated our oldest daughter's birthday by giving half a bowl each to the other children and a whole bowl to the birthday girl. I can't say that we live in abundance now, but it's much better than during the arduous march.
North Korea's crippled economy and lack of natural energy resources have resulted in an irregular supply of electricity. During the film crew's stay, there were several occasions where districts of the city were without power. One night, the electricity went out in the central district of Pyongyang. The evening meal was eaten by candlelight. The Pak family was uncomfortable having this indignity filmed, but when the power was restored, it was clear who they blamed.
Damn Americans. It's all their fault.
It's Sunday, the official day of rest in Pyongyang. Sung-yeon and her family relax by the Daedong River. There won't be many more family days out like this in the future, as the eldest daughter, Song-mi, is soon to join the army. She will serve for 5 years. Song-mi has the full approval of her parents to serve in the military. Her father is a former soldier, and her mother has a high regard for the ethos and benefits of army life.
While I was at university, I studied with former soldiers who had done their military service. The difference in the level of thinking between male comrades who had come from middle school and those who'd served in the military was as great as the distance between the earth and the sky. The veterans had a kind of strong revolutionary camaraderie where they gave all they had for the sake of their comrades. If someone was sick, they'd even give their own blood without hesitating. Seeing this, I thought to myself, when the time comes for me to choose a husband, I'd definitely pick a veteran. I also hope our children grow up to have such a strong sense of camaraderie. So we want to send our children to the military.
All mass games celebrate the role of the army in North Korean society. At 1.1 million, it's the 5th largest in the world and holds a special place in the mindset of the people. But the arduous march has left much of North Korea's civilian population reliant on foreign aid. And aid agencies say that malnutrition is now the biggest threat to the next generation of North Koreans. Some Western aid donors and aid agencies are wary of distributing food and medicine that in their eyes is simply used to feed and supply a standing army that threatens the stability of the peninsula. However, in North Korea, the army is seen as the defender of the leader and the socialist system, and not an aggressive force.
I don't know what people in other countries do to prepare themselves if a war should break out. In our case, our dear general is always on the front lines. And no matter what kind of war breaks out in other countries, he visits chicken farms. He goes to basic food factories and disposable goods factories. And he visits the children's palace. Because of this, I think, our happiness rests on the barrel of a gun. I want to send all my daughters to the military so that they can learn organizational discipline and strengthen their minds and bodies before going to college or choosing a job.
When I was young, even in kindergarten, I hated life in groups and organizations, so I ran away from school. After I got to middle school, I'd go to school in the mornings and club in the afternoons. Training at the club started at 3 o'clock. There were a lot of older girls. Because I was young, a lot of the girls were older than me. Sometimes the older girls would be in charge of us, and they would scold me for not being good enough. All I could think of was running away. But when my skills improved, I got put on the list for the mass games. When I first performed in the mass games in front of our father, the general, my chest and heart were trembling. My whole body was trembling. I was so frightened that I couldn't even move any part of my body. But then, when I thought about going out in front of the general and doing my moves, it seemed that the general was looking at me and saying, "Don't cry, do your best, you're very good." And it seemed as though he was waving his hands toward me. When I went out to perform, my heart automatically felt happy. And I just broke into a smile. Because group gymnastics is an exercise done not by one person, but by a synchronized group, even though it's tiring, because you do it together with classmates, the power of the group develops, and individualism completely disappears.
Both Hyun Sun and Sung Yeon attend Moranbong Middle School No. 1. They have chosen this school because it is the nearest to their mass games practice area. The curriculum at the school includes ideological education focused on the teachings and exploits of North Korea's revolutionary leaders.
Today we'll study the way the dear General Kim Jong-il prepares the strong political thoughts of students. Please write the title, Reinforcing Education in Political Thought.
English is also being taught in North Korea. Most high school students in Pyongyang have the option of learning English, Chinese, Japanese, or Russian.
For ideological education, what kinds of lessons did he give? Park Yeon-sung, please provide an answer.
Cultivation of loyalty and...
Cultivation of loyalty, first of all. Second?
Studying the exploits of the great Marshal Kim Il-sung.
Yes, studying his exploits in order to equip ourselves with revolutionary ideas. So what did he say second of all?
Education in the politics of the party.
Third?
Education in anti-revisionism.
Yes, education in anti-revisionism.
And education in social class.
Yes, that's right. Sit down. Furthermore, the great leader Kim Jong-il today, through militaristic revolutionary leadership, is leading the Korean Revolution to victory.
Hello, boys. I have good news.
What's that, Monitor?
Our class will go to the movies this afternoon.
Will they show a good film?
Sure, they will show a very interesting film.
Will our class teacher come with us?
Yes, he will.
How will you spend your next holiday?
Well, I'll go to the swimming pool with my brother.
Oh, wonderful. Can you swim?
Of course I can. I'm a good swimmer.
Should I come with you?
Yes, please. Let's go together.
Will your sister come too?
No, she won't. Sylvie will stay there.
Where are the U.S. imperialist aggressors attacking at the moment? Looking at the state of affairs in the world at the moment, it's clear that the U.S. imperialists can't rest even for a moment from invading other countries. Furthermore, our revolution is progressing under such difficult circumstances today. With the intention of getting rid of our Korean socialism, the only socialism left on this earth, these Americans are maneuvering to isolate, squash, and suffocate our country. What do they want to do to socialism in the end? They want to totally demolish it.
The 50th anniversary of the end of the Korean War is just 3 months away, but another national holiday means the girls are about to have 2 days rest from training. April 15th, Kim Il-sung's birthday. Today is the most important day in the North Korean calendar. 3 years of national mourning followed Kim Il-sung's death in 1994. In 1997, he was declared eternal president. Thousands of citizens visit his statue every day. Today will be more crowded than ever. Among those paying their respects at 7 in the morning are Sung-yeon and her parents. They then leave Pyongyang and head to the countryside, to a cooperative farm called Wonha-ri. All North Koreans are required to have a permit to travel outside their towns of residence. By public transport, it takes the family half a day to make the 30-mile journey. Remarkably, the crew was allowed to film the visit, the first time, we are told, permission had been granted to film in the countryside. The farm specializes in the maintenance of farm machinery, and it is home to a friend of Sung-yeon's father from his days in the Korean People's Army. Mr. Kim's friend is the conductor of the village band. It has been 10 years since the two veterans last met. On this national holiday, there is a festival in the village. Teams from different farm units compete for the 3 prizes donated by the cooperative farm, their choice of pig, sheep, or goat.
When we were in the army, he was always sleepy. So we used to call him Sleepyhead. We were in different divisions, but we shared the same bed. I mean, army life is group life, so we slept in the same bed. And we became close. I don't sleep much in the mornings, so I had to wake him up, but it was a bit difficult. So I slapped him a few times.
In North Korean society, the peasant class includes anyone who works on the land and is held in high regard. The peasants suffered greatly during the arduous march. It is in the countryside that the hardships of recent years have been felt the most, even here, only 30 miles from Pyongyang.
To be honest, life in a farming village is tough. It's different from the city because the seasons change. Let's say in a factory, if you can't produce what you need for that month, it's all right to do it later. But you can't delay planting seeds on the farm, so it's stressful. We're always tense. It's been quite rough, actually. We lost the great leader. Then we had natural disasters on top of that. So the farming hasn't turned out the way it should. And to be honest, the U.S. imperialists have been blocking our economy. Using self-reliance, we did our farming on our own. Under the care of our party and the general, we've been receiving food. But it's been quite difficult.
Yet despite the hardship, the system endured. North Koreans credit their survival to the guiding philosophy of Juche, an ideology of self-reliance developed by Kim Il-sung and further elaborated by Kim Jong-il.
Self-reliance means using our own strength. We make the things we don't have, if the state can't provide them. For example, agricultural tools like hoes, if the state can't provide them, we forge them ourselves at the blacksmiths, since we have to do our farming. So if we have no gasoline for an engine, we have to figure out how it works and make it work at all costs, even by running it on natural gas. This kind of thing is self-reliance.
We're former soldiers, and the ideals of revolutionary soldiers are, first, to protect the great leader to the death. Next, a willingness to sacrifice ourselves before carrying out the policies of the party. We have no right to look at the sky. We have to stop at nothing and completely devote ourselves. Because people have this mindset, there's no excuse for saying we don't have this or there isn't enough of that. I think it's in our nature as North Koreans to totally devote ourselves to completely carrying out whatever task we do.
Throughout the 8 months of production, the issue of North Korea's nuclear ambition has dominated headlines all over the world. It is also on the minds of these North Korean families. Sung-yeon's father, a college professor, is well aware of the issues.
We teachers and comrades actually all recognize the fact that there's no need to make nuclear weapons. Of course, in circumstances where the Americans keep wanting to eat us up, there's a possibility that we may make weapons to defend ourselves against them. But instead of making the weapons for offensive purposes, we teachers know it's more important that we train and arm ourselves ideologically and dominate the enemy mentally. If there's one thing I have to say to the people of the world, it's never be afraid of us.
The Army veteran finds it hard to understand the hostility shown towards his country.
At the moment, we all live happily and freely like one family. But whenever we hear that outsiders are threatening to attack us, we think that this feeling of peace is being trampled on. These people must all want peace in the end, too. But I wonder, why do they interfere with other people's happiness? We're a simple and peace-loving people. But once somebody treads on our happiness, we'll answer them with a merciless blow.
It is 50 years to the day since an armistice brought 3 years of vicious fighting on the Korean peninsula to an end. In previous years, the anniversary has seen a mass games spectacular. But this year, North Korea's self-proclaimed victory over the United States was muted. There was no mass games. Kim Il-sung's statue is again the focus of remembrance, as it was he who led the nation through the war. Pride of place goes to a bouquet sent personally by his son, Kim Jong-il. At night, there may be no mass games, but the festivities center around the 30,000 adults who dance on Kim Il-sung's square. Yet there seems little to celebrate. 50 years after the war, a peace treaty has never been signed. Korea remains divided. The North is still seen as a pariah by the Western world, and the Korean peninsula continues to live with the threat of catastrophic war. Hyun's son and her family can view the fireworks from their apartment. Throughout the night, they make their own entertainment. The next day, it's business as usual for the gymnasts. July is the start of the hot and humid season in Korea. School is out for the summer. Throughout the summer months, practice will be held all day. And the girls, Hyun-sun and Sung-yeon, continue to hone their skills for a future occasion when they can honor their leader.
Sometimes mass gymnastics training is hard. We train under the blazing sun while other kids play around. But we dedicate a huge amount of energy to give happiness to the dear general. Now our moves are almost perfect. When the beloved leader comes to watch the mass gymnastics, I'll definitely please him with perfect moves.